River to River Trail series, and we're going to put a conclusion on this series at this point in time. So I am back from the trail, and I appreciate all the kind words and messages that I've received you guys in regards to the trip. And if the information was helpful, to you, I certainly aim to be as helpful as possible when I do these videos, so that other people can go out and have the same type of adventure. So I have received a lot of messages asking as to why I left the trail early, and the best way to summarize that is to just chalk it up to personality conflicts. I didn't necessarily jive with my hiking partner, and I decided to leave. The scenario that I had going on for the first 2 days was not something I wanted to continue on for the next 9. And so I decided, based on the frame of mood that I was in at the time, that the best thing to do was to leave the trail and just come home. Consequently, that made some changes into my logistics as far as being able to get picked up at the end of the trail and that sort of thing. And logistics are very important. And unfortunately, I wouldn't have enough time to change the logistics around and make everything work. So I was done at that point, and it's a decision I don't regret, and I think it worked out for everybody else. I know my hiking partner had some problems with his pack and boots and that sort of thing, and he was able to go home and fix that stuff, and I guess he headed back to the trail. So more power to him, and wish him well on his journey. I had a ton of house stuff that was being pushed off because of the hike, and so I managed to get in on that, and I'm actually a bit ahead of schedule now as far as my spring jobs that I need to get done around the house. So look forward to some around the home videos popping up soon. So let's talk a little bit about the trail, and we'll start with the gear and the things that I brought. For the most part, everything worked well. I didn't really have any issues. I've used my gear numerous times as anybody who's subscribed, they've seen my Ozark Trail videos. I've pretty much vetted out my gear. It works rather well. One thing I did change was the shirt that I was wearing. I originally was going to go with a quarter zip merino wool, and the temperatures were just looking a lot higher than I had kind of expected. So I decided to switch over to the blue Ex Officio Airstrip shirt, which works pretty decent in the spring and fall weather, and maybe I'll do a video on that particular shirt. Another thing that worked well, this was really the only untested piece of gear that I had brought with me, was the Sawyer Mini Squeeze. This thing worked really well. I opted to skip the 500 milliliter bag that they gave you and use a 1 liter platypus as the dirty bag. This worked well because the Mini has the little compression washer in here, so I didn't have any leaks. In theory, though, I think next time I will bring a 2 liter bag as the dirty and just use this. If I need to do a carry, I'll just carry dirty water in 2 liters, and that way it'll save me the ounce, 1.2 ounces of carrying an extra bladder, and I'll have this. This will also hook up to soda bottles, so if I ever had a bladder issue, I could always just use one of my water bottles as well. So that worked out really well. The one other thing that I would probably change would be my gaiters. I had the Dirty Girl gaiters. They work really well. I had nothing get in my shoes. They're short though, in my opinion. My pants kind of slip out, and with the amount of mud that we had out there, I wish I would have had some taller gaiters. So I'm going to have to look around and find some tall gaiters that are going to work well with trail runners, or perhaps I'll just need to make my own, and if I do, I'll definitely be making a video on that. So let's talk a little bit about the trail conditions. As you probably saw in the videos, there was a lot of water and a lot of mud. If you go in the spring, you're really going to need to pay attention to this, and figure out your system that's going to work for you. I had the trail runners. I had 2 pair of socks. I would wear one. The other would either be drying on the back of my pack or in my tent, and then I would either swap them out midday or, swap them out, one day at a time. I had a pair of socks that I could wear as sort of camp socks along with my little DIY camp flip-flops, and that worked really well for me. If you bring water shoes, use your water shoes. Don't walk through with your boots, because now your boots are wet and you're going to have wet boots for the rest of the trip, because they're not going to dry unless it's super sunny, unless you put them by the fire. Your stuff's not going to dry out. I mean, my trail runners for the most part dried out. I pulled all the liners out, I hung them up on trees, and I did everything I could to dry things out, but it's going to be a problem, and that's just trail life. So make sure to work out your system before you go, and that way you'll be better prepared. Same with, you know, the tent system. Make sure that your tent on the ground is definitely waterproof, and you don't need an extra ground sheet, because the ground was saturated. I mean, you could pick it up and squeeze it and water would come out. They had 5 or 6 inches of rain 2 days or the day before we went, so everything was swollen. So just pay attention. You're going to have a lot of water issues otherwise. Blazing is a big problem on the river to river trail. I will not lie. I had blazing issues in October 2012 when I did the Les Creek section, and there's from E-Town up to about Carver Ridge, which is where the American Discovery Trail hooks up to the river to river trail. Is where the old river to river trail comes in. Between that section, for the most part, you're on ATV trails, which is great. Double track, it's not too bad. But the ATV guys shoot out all the blazes. They take them down. So pay attention to where you're going. Have a good map. You gotta, I mean, I hate to plug the John Voight book, but it's got the GPS coordinates. Put them into your GPS and bring a GPS. Because there was plenty of times where we're like, well, you know, I don't know if it really goes this way. Well, the next point's over that way. Well, maybe we missed something. Let's backtrack. And we did that a couple times. We had to backtrack and realize that we missed a turnoff that we didn't even see because the blaze was just a leftover spray-painted white triangle on a tree that looked like lichen. So, big problem, specifically between E-Town and Carver Ridge. Once you hook up, there's a little bit more blazes. You get a little bit better blazes between the Carver Ridge connection and High Knob. So between that section, you got a lot more blazes going, which is helpful. It's single track. But as you start getting the white, High Knob, and then into Garden of the Gods, you start picking up all the side trails. So you're going to have little white signs that say like 305 or 802 or something like that. You need to pay attention to this because you're going to end up on a side trail, because that happened to me in Les Creek back in 2012. So just be aware of it. Through that section, the river to river trail obviously has the white diamond with the blue eye, but also it's going to be listed as trail number 001. Okay, so pay attention for signs. If you see a sign that says 001, that's the river to river trail. But they have 001A and 001E. I don't know where those trails go. I don't know why they would name spur trails like that. So just really pay attention. That was the big problem that I saw all the way through E-Town, all the way to the end of the Les Creek Trailhead. That whole 50-mile section I've done now. And blazing is a huge problem. So really pay attention to that. Other than that, I thought the trails were pretty decent. They were muddy. The horses were out at High Knob, and you know, so you're going to run into horse poop, you're going to run into horse riders, so you're just going to have to deal with that. High Knob did have a little kitchen thing going. That was when we got there. It was the first day, and those biscuits and gravy were pretty darn tasty. So other than that, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I would like to do the trail again. Logistics need to be planned. You know, I got to get vacation from work. I got to get a time when I can actually get off of work, which is usually difficult these days. I got to make arrangements with, the wife and the kids and the whole deal. So there's a lot that goes to it, particularly, if you're working a lot and you got a family, you got to work around that. So perhaps we'll see. Maybe something will happen in the fall. Maybe I'll just go over and start knocking out the rest of the sections and get the trail done, because it definitely is a very, very cool trail. So, and I hope that you guys go and check it out. I encourage you to get down there and get out and explore some of that area, because it really is quite beautiful. And fall, you got the leaf change, so maybe that's a good time to go. It'll be nice and pretty. So until the next adventure, which is definitely coming up at some point, I really appreciate you guys watching these videos and all the comments and support. And if you have questions, you can post them here. You can post them on the Facebook page. and there's plenty of videos coming up, so be sure to hit the subscribe button. So until next time, thanks for watching.